So your new EP, Then There Were Sparks, is dropping on February 21st. Can we talk about the project in its entirety? Like, what was the inspiration behind the project, and how does it represent where you are as artists today?
I think the song "Then There Were Sparks" is in general like about the feeling of like, when you're stuck and you feel like you can't break through, or you don't know kind of what to do, and you maybe want to give up, and then it's like that breakthrough, and that where it's like, oh, where like you remember, and like the magic that happens, and I think for me and Chad, for different reasons, and for also reasons that we shared like together, as a like a partnership in this, I feel like it was a moment for us. And when we write songs, they're our therapy, and we write what we need to kind of help us break through. And that song is that for a lot of those reasons.
On the EP, there's also a few different versions of "Say Something," and we wanted to celebrate the 10-year anniversary, and so those are on here. And then there's another song called "Go On" that no one knows or no one has heard yet, that I'm really excited about. And that one, yeah, it's like all of our releases kind of chronicle what is going on in our lives, and like this EP is not any different. And it's like "Go On" was a song that I wrote around my father's passing, or Ian and I wrote it. But like that was one of the most, like, I don't know, that was one of the hardest songs for me to write. And um, I'm so proud of where we got the recording to, because I feel like it really captured the moment. And um, yeah, I'm really excited for people to hear that one.
Speaking of lives and speaking of stories that are being communicated through living life, there's a line that I wanted to ask you about from the single, and it's got this habit of thinking I'm in control, holding on for dear life, and it's getting old, was never good at letting go. What does letting go mean to you exactly? And what do the sparks represent in contrast to that emotion?
I think, well, to answer the question in a different way, I think the holding on refers to a couple different things. For me and Chad, it's like holding on to the old ways of things, and holding on to the past, if it's not like kind of serving us anymore, and kind of figuring out how to, like, what our relationship is now, and how we can best be partners in this. um and then for me personally, I think for it's about my OCD. If I have like compulsive disorder, if I have compulsions to do things, or it's because I got to do this, or for this thing to happen or to not happen, or is there anything that I do or not do that can affect other people, and I get so caught up in it, and it's this false sense of control. um and I'm really trying to live my life with less of that, and with less, where OCD is less, is less muscular, in my in my life, and so it's a constant struggle for me.
These habits that you have, like, do you have any sort of things that you go to, that you turn to, that uh remedy the situation basically?
Yeah, well, being mindful is part of it, like being aware that, oh, is this OCD? um so I guess that's that's like one of the first steps, is like being able to identify it. And then it's really like it's really through it's like doing reps of okay, I'm not going to engage in the behavior in this moment, and like picking something that I can do in a repetitive way, and like maybe focusing on one thing this week that I'm not going to do. And really trying to do more reps of that. And as I do that, it kind of like rewires the circuitry in my brain. Um, there's different things in my life that give me different levels of OCD anxiety. And so if I start on smaller things that like, oh, maybe I don't have to like check the stove this time or check the lock or whatever it is. I mean, there's a million of them. Those are just like very common generic ones.
Hmm.
And then a lot of my OCD also is in my mind. It's not actually physical checking. So it's like thoughts that get stuck in loops, and it's almost like I'm revisiting the thoughts. Like, I have to revisit it again, and I have to. So I get stuck there. It's really difficult. I'm in therapy, on and off medication. I've had it my whole life. It wasn't diagnosed when I was a kid, and then and I was just able to handle it. And then it started affecting my life and people around me. Like when I around 30.
Hmm.
But it's also part of like, our music and my creativity. And I feel like the way I see the world and the way I hear the world. So I think I'm trying to figure out how to embrace it and also be grateful for that. Kind of similar to what Chad was saying about his his relationship with his MS. Um,
Hmm.
but it's really challenging to do that. So it's an ongoing process.
Also, like the concept of letting go. I've been in situations in my life where I was really anxious about something and I just decided to let it go, and then things turned out better than I thought that they would. Have you ever experienced something like that before?
Yeah, I mean, particularly with in relation to OCD, you have all these fears that something's going to happen or not if you don't engage, right? And so when you're actually practicing like not engaging with it, and then you wake up the next morning and everything's okay, it it almost gives, and or 2 days later you completely forget about the thing you were freaking out about 2 days earlier, where it's not the emergency anymore. And so the more you're aware of that and the more that happens, I could like ride that wave and like use it as motivation to kind of keep going. um so from an OCD perspective.
Is that the spark though? Like, in terms of what that spark represents, is it that thing where you do let it go and then the universe manifests
Yeah,
and transpires to just do its part in your life to make great things happen?
I love the saying that when one door closes, another one opens, or a window opens, um, because it's so true. And that in that moment is the spark, the right before, like right as the door is closing and right as another one is opening, like it's right in there. Then there were sparks happens. But I remember I haven't spoken about this, but I remember there, and or I spoke to Ian about it. But during the pandemic, as my walking was getting stranger, and like I probably was looking a little funny as I was walking to the studio every day, and it got to the point where I was like so against having a walking aid, having a cane. I didn't, or a walker, or any sort of aid to help me. I was so I was felt so embarrassed if I had to use an aid, and it took it took a second for me to get there. And once I got there and was able to start using a walking aid and not be embarrassed by it, all of a sudden it was like I felt like I could see the world again. It felt like, oh my God, this is what the world looks like now. Now it's like I don't have to carry that weight. And so I just feel like this idea of like when one door closes, another one opens. It was like I I I I shut down I stopped those thoughts of like embarrassment behind the walking aid piece, and instead embraced it, and I feel like that changed everything. And that was like a switch. It was like one little switch, and it just changed my whole universe.